Okay, guys, so thank you very much for the opportunity to speak to you guys today. As you can see, I'm a little bit of a chemistry geek, so I chose a chemistry title. Really talking about the covalent bonds and partnership between the two companies. And if you don't know what a covalent bond is, I'm not going to get into VSEPR and molecular orbital theory, but basically it's a chemical bond involving the sharing of electrons. And I thought that's kind of a nice way of sort of phrasing the sort of sharing of ideas and concepts that we have between IDBS and ChemAxon. So basically, why am I standing here talking today? Really, just to let you know that we are developing the next generation of platform for R&D informatics. And effectively, this really includes a brand new chemistry ELN that works in the web. And is really cool, mostly because we've been developing it. We get to see it every day. So, but I'm quite excited to share this information with you. Part of the rationale of what we've been doing as well is talking to our customers. We've been doing a really active development phase in the last 2.5 years to migrate all of our desktop products into the web. And there's good rationale for this. Really, we have people asking for SaaS deployments. We have people wanting to do outsourcing. Everybody's talking about the cloud. And you can see people waving mobile devices and tablets. So I think actually we had a bit of a discussion yesterday talking about MarvinJS and mobility, and it actually brought up some interesting discussion points because I really believe that the researchers of tomorrow are the people who are probably about 15, 16, 17 years old, sitting in high school at the moment, and they're brought up on all these tablet devices and phones and stuff, and their expectations of what they expect software to be and to how they interact with it is going to be very, very different. So really with our E-WorkBook strategy, as I say, we're embracing the cloud, and I think that's really important because there are companies who, small startups, for example, that just want the convenience of being able to work with a SaaS platform. It's also focusing on the enterprise as well, something that's cost-effective to maintain. A lot of IT departments at the moment don't have the capability to support 22 different pieces of software, so they're consolidating on the vendors that they choose. And of course, at the end of the day, you need a really nice UX for the end users, which encourages user adoption and hence the success of your project. As I say, collaboration, I think, is pretty common. Certainly in the last 10 years within pharma, there's been a lot of shake-up in big pharma, a lot of outsourcing to India, China, Ukraine, the rest of the world. Many companies now have as many as 200 CRO partners that they work with. So to being able to sort of exchange information in a very easy way is a key part to the data process. And of course, just having this end-to-end solution and moving from the sort of best of breed ready to having this integration and being able to provide the users with really feature-rich APIs for us to then communicate with all these different systems. So the E-WorkBook platform, as it stands, is effectively the E-WorkBook ELN at its core, but it also has other aspects to it from the perspective of, obviously, chemistry and the main ELN, through to assay inventory, our Connect module, which is used for externalized collaboration, and Request, which is also used for generating samples and test requests and workflows. So E-WorkBook has been around for many, many years now, and it's used a lot, certainly with biology, analytical, and formulations. And yes, actually chemistry as well. IDBS, people may have the perception that we really are a biology company, but actually, yes, we do chemistry as well. And actually, Gartner ranked us as high in chemistry in 2013. So I was talking to Mike, and he was saying that Mike Chandler, who wrote this, and he's going to be doing a revised matrix of this, I think, later this year or early next year. And my plan is to basically change high to a very high to give some context to that. So chemistry is also, I think, a bit of a misnomer because chemistry covers an awful lot of space in so many different types of industries. If you think about where our chemicals come from, or your starting materials for your reaction, they come from either, a biological aspect, as you can see, fermentation products, all the rest of it, all basically they're dug out of the ground and converted through petrochemicals and commodity chemicals and all the rest of it. So IDBS have customers in all of these facets already. Obviously, people have different needs from a chemistry perspective. So the guys in oil and gas and petrochemical are really looking at process optimization. People in commodity chemicals and industrials are also more looking at formulations, which has aspects of chemistry, but the real key focus at the moment is really looking at the life sciences and the agrochemicals and a little bit of flavors and fragrances, because these are the guys that are starting to work with the really novel, quite complex chemical molecules. As you can see from the slide, IDBS has customers in a wide variety of different areas and different market verticals. And everybody thinks they work in a very particular way in one market vertical, but actually at the end of the day, everybody has research, everybody does kind of the same thing. They're all doing the same process using maybe different terminology or different syntax of how they describe it, but one person's producing a new product, another person is producing a new drug. So it's kind of funny because when you look at it from a product perspective, I talk with my business analyst, Natalie, a lot, and I always say that chemistry is an octopus. So there you go, there's a catchphrase for the day. By that I mean that chemistry's got lots of arms, and it sort of reaches into many different products and many facets together. So as I say, we have the ELN, and chemistry is quite tightly connected to that. But chemistry also features in, for example, Connect for collaboration, because your CRO partner, you might need to exchange a synthetic route or a molecule with them. You know, it also could be feature in your test requesting. So you sent a sample off to analytical, and analytical came back and actually said, no, you didn't really synthesize this structure, you actually synthesized something different. Inventory is an obvious one. Assay, sending them the structure over and getting some SAR analysis, and also then thinking about how you could exchange information through a variety of different integrations. So from a legacy perspective, IDBS had their own chemistry platform, and as we started to move to the web, we needed a nice web-enabled technology to work with, and we were sort of faced with this decision of like, do we try and buy someone, do we continue to develop and build our own, or do we actually partner? And the reason for this is we really needed to have a solution where we could deliver something, get it to market fast, and actually have a really good feature set that we could work with our customers. So we already had a relationship with ChemAxon. In the desktop product, we used the reactor, and we also used property calculators. But of course, with the web architecture, MarvinJS and the JChem technology was a perfect fit for us. And of course, you guys have got a fantastic reputation. I think certainly world standard. And I have to say, working with ChemAxon, the APIs have been really good, very feature-rich, and very well documented. And that makes it a lot easier to do integrations with. The other aspect as well is that the chemistry capabilities of ChemAxon were better than what we had in IDBS, particularly in terms of representing these classifications. So we heard about biologicals this morning from Roland. Obviously, organometallics is something that's interesting for people doing petrochemical and catalysis research, and Marcouche has many applications as well. So we kind of started very simply, and we just implemented MarvinJS in the E-WorkBook web client back in December last year. And pretty much over December and January, we spent a little bit of time on the whiteboard. So what I want to give you is a bit of a snapshot as to what we've done in the last 9 months. So give us 6 months, and we created a chemistry ELN with full stoichiometry, embedding MarvinJS, JChem, and the chemical registration component. So that was released in June, and then we just going through quarterly release cycles to then enhance this product and take it further. So of course, I know you're not going to be satisfied with a little screenshot, so I have a little video for you in action. So here we are in E-WorkBook, and we've just created a stoichiometry experiment, and you can see I can click on the edit, and I can invoke the MarvinJS. So I've been lazy, and I'm just opening up a reaction that I already have. And I can return to the stoichiometry, and you can see here that IUPAC names are calculated, the molecular properties. I can then type in the mass of some of my components, add in the density and the number of equivalents for my second reagent. And I can also search for components. And this is where we can reach out to other inventory systems. Something could be ChemSpider, something could be local systems. You can search for by barcode or by text or partial text name. I can then find my amine and my solvent, and I just choose from the drop-down as to how I'd like to classify that in the reaction. And then returning to the stoichiometry table, those two items have been inserted. And you can also see we've got a little information card. So that gives you a little bit of context as to where that information actually came from. And of course, I can just click on the little pen icon and add in my supporting information in terms of the number of equivalents that I've used, or in this particular case, the quantity of solvent that I'm working with. And as you can see, there's iterative calculations that run off the back of that. So just here, I'm going to go into my procedure write-up, and I have predefined text phrases ready just to help me work with my experiment. And I can also read information directly from the stoichiometry table, and that's dynamically linked. So if I had to change the scale of my reaction, I don't need to worry about changing the procedure write-up. We've also added another new feature, which I think represents the workflow of a chemist quite well, where you can actually add extra amounts. And that's pretty common because you might be doing a synthesis 3 hours, and you might decide that you need maybe another 0.2 equivalents of a reagent to be able to then push the reaction to completion. So we can actually now record that as an individual step. So now that we've actually finished our reaction, we now come to the stage where we do registration. So we've worked seamlessly to integrate the ChemAxon registration system directly into the ELN. So we have a form that you could configure. It's pre-populated with things like the mass, the yield, the purity, because we don't want people to be sort of transcribing information that's already there. And I can click the button, and the registration's done. And I also have a hyperlink that I could then click on, and that pops open a new tab, which will take me into my ChemAxon registration system. And then I could view the results from there. And of course, if the reaction had failed, it would then take me to the staging area from where I could then resolve any conflicts that are there. So as part of this design process, really, I think we aren't developing chemistry in isolation. I think it's a dangerous thing to do with software development. So we held a chemistry forum. I'm actually running one tomorrow. So every 3 months, I'm over in either Munich or Boston, or we get a bunch of people together in a room. And effectively, we just sit and talk and chat, drink coffee, eat donuts, whiteboard, discuss, and we get really, really good feedback from people in terms of what they like, what they dislike about what we're doing, how we're designing things, what functionality is there. And as I say, the feedback's been fantastic, and I think it's really empowering as well to be able to offer you, the people, the capability to influence the design of the product right from the word go. So what I've shown you so far is really talking about MarvinJS, JChem, chemical registration, but obviously there's other touch points we're going to work with. So I think certainly within the next 3 months, we'll be looking to implement structure check and standardizer directly into the ELN. That's really to try and catch any issues with the way that chemists are drawing molecules before they actually go through the process to hit the registration system. Compliance checker, as we heard this morning, that's obviously very valuable now to, again, before people even synthesize things, be able to sort of get confirmation that what they're doing is successful. Marvin Sketch, literally within the last 2 or 3 days, we built a POC to integrate directly with Marvin Sketch and use it as an alternative structure editor. And we have Marvin Live, which for me, I think as an organic chemist, it's one of my favorite applications, I think, of ChemAxon. And as we saw this morning in Roland's talk, the integration with Helm and the biomolecule toolkit. So I have a very quick little video to show you of what we've done with Marvin Live. So I'm sure you're probably aware of Marvin Live. I consider it Skype for chemists. I think it's a really cool application for people to discuss and design. And you can see that there's 2 people talking about the design of molecules over here and having a bit of a conversation. and then going through and reviewing the molecules that they have considered for their experimental synthesis. And instead of just creating it as a PDF report, you can actually push this directly to your workbook. So in here now, we have 2 experiments now created in E-WorkBook, which then give all of the structural information, some of the calculated properties, and that little chit-chat that they had around it. I think this is amazing because if you can imagine, like, fast forward 5 years down the line, you'd have a record of what was actually synthesized, but you wouldn't have a record of what people were actively thinking about at that particular point in time. So I think this is incredibly valuable to be able to capture this design workflow and process at the point of time. So there's a couple of aspects around how we think about product design. I kind of like fast cars, so it's got to be fast and it's got to look good. It's not easy to get to that point, though, and this is, as I say, why we're going through this iterative design review approach. And obviously, the software has to be user-friendly. And how do we do this? At the end of the day, focus on the user. Talk to the users. Discuss with the users as much as possible. What do you use? What do you dislike? And really look at the user experience. Natalie and I both come from a synthetic chemistry background. So it's considering all the little touch points. I think, creating chemistry functional ELN is not just one function you need to implement. It's about 192 little ones in combination that actually make the product amazing. So when's it ready? Actually, it's ready. We released the product in June, certainly with stoichiometry. As I say, we've got, in the next 2 weeks, we will be releasing our version 10.1.3 in September, which has enhancements to calculations, salts and solvates, and some nice integration points. And then in the next 3 months, up until 10.2, we'll look at enhancing the analytical sampling, adding more comprehensive Boolean searching, tying into aspects of health and safety, compliance checking, and structure checking. So really, just to say thank you. There's a huge number of people in ChemAxon I have to acknowledge. I can't read them all out by name. There's too many. Certainly the guys at IDBS who I've worked with, and the Chemistry Forum attendees who've given us so much good feedback, and yourselves for your kind attention. Thank you very much.